Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Darth Tyrax Presents. I'm Darth Tyrax, and this week we're going to be presenting a 1990s Japanese anime called Martian, Successor, Nadesico. Now, if anybody who knows me personally knows me at all, they know I'm a big fan of big, giant robot mecha stompy action. Your Macrosses, your Gundams, Battletech's one of the games I play a lot of. And this is a mecha anime, and it has plenty of good mecha stomping action. Now, a lot of series can be, we'll say serious. Some can be very slapstick. This one kind of balances, though leans a little more to the comedy side. Now, as I said, it was done in the mid-90s, so it's pretty easy to find. 1996, if I remember correctly. It's actually a TV series. It's not just a movie or an OVA miniseries. It's a 26-episode series. And the basis of the series is aliens called Jovians, so from Jupiter, are attacking Earth for a variety of reasons. Now, the basic plot is it follows the adventures of this corporate-built space battleship, Nadesico, and the largely civilian crew on board. Our hero, Akito, is actually someone who doesn't even want to be a pilot, though his destiny is effectively to be a pilot, or by all indications, it's to be a pilot. He just wants to be a fry cook, or a chef. And he spends most of the series outside of when he has to pilot mecha to save the ship or protect the ship and what have you, trying to cook, become a better cook, become the best cook, and along those lines. Or he watches his favorite show, Geki Ganger 3. Now, the whole premise of this series, in some ways, is like the underlying premise is to kind of poke fun at the mecha genre to some degree, because there's all kinds of tropes within the shows that are generally followed. You have a mentor. In this case, they have a mentor. He follows the same path of most mentors in these series, though it happens in a very different way. No spoilers. You have the evil villain. Sometimes the villain, one of the tropes is the villain isn't really who you think it is until you figure that out. There's the love triangles or love stories, and in this case, Akito and 3 or 4 different female characters on the ship, including the young captain who, outside of battle and commanding the ship itself, really acts like a complete dip, and she is so head over heels for the hero. That's where a lot of the comedy comes from, actually, is the interaction of the female characters with Akito. Now, again, the whole story is, from beginning to end, is fighting these Jovians. You follow his journey as he matures and accepts his destiny as a pilot. But he still follows his joy of cooking, and that's his passion. So he keeps following that as he goes as well. Then as the story goes on, it gets a little more serious and turns away a little bit from the comedy. They still keep it, as they should, but they turn away from that. And it turns out with this series, towards the end, you find out there's a weird tie between certain elements that you really wouldn't expect. And I don't mean just the villain being who the villain turns out to be, but just other elements that come together and have you scratching your head. We also have I'm guessing she was genetically altered. There's another character. She looks like a little girl. I think she's the navigator or pilot. I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched the series. And she's like always dead serious, and her tagline is, when she's watching everything going on around her, she just kind of looks at the camera and goes, "Idiots." That's all she does. And a lot of times when they pan on her, now she comes up with different ideas of how to deal with things, and she's highly intelligent, but it's funny to see this, what looks like a 12-year-old girl amongst essentially all adults, just looking around and going, these people are insane. Why are we here? Why is this going on? And the Jovians themselves, they're different. A lot of robotic elements are used for their enemy units and mecha and whatnot. Obviously mecha, but you don't get to see the actual aliens per se until later on. All throughout this, there's also a tie to a Mars colony, and our hero is actually originally from Mars and ended up on Earth before the series began, and there's ties to that as well. Now, overall, the series is very enjoyable. Myself, I remember watching the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I was just howling in laughter a lot of the time, because it was just that funny with how Akito, they keep saying, "Oh, you're a pilot." He goes, "No, I'm a fry cook," and he does nothing to do with it. And then he meets the mentor, who is just this absolute over the top gung ho. "Oh yeah, I'm this awesome pilot," and he even nicknames himself rather than using his real name. And because of he's the one who turns Akito on to the love of his show, Gekiganger 3, and that's almost how he patterns himself, is after a character in that show, the mentor, that is. And it's just bloody hilarious. And to me, like, I don't know if anybody else will find it hilarious, but I do. And this whole thing is me presenting to you, right? So overall, for the era, the animation style and quality is actually really good for a TV series. It has its moments where it's kind of, you go, okay. But overall, it's on par with that time. And I would say that the style of animation they did and the quality still pretty well stands up today compared to a lot of the more modern anime series that are coming out. It was 26 episodes, which I think I mentioned earlier. So, and they're only about 20 to 25 minutes each, roughly. So if you really wanted to sit down and watch it, you could probably watch it in a day. Probably take you about 8 or 9 out, like maybe 9 hours or so. So if you wanted to binge watch it in a day, you could, if you can find it to do so. And the mecha are pretty cool. Like the good guy mecha are actually pretty cool, and they're called Estivalis, and they can be reconfigured for atmosphere airborne flight use, or kind of a tanky ground use, or again for space operations and things like that. And they're actually pretty good. If I remember correctly, they had an article in, I think it was Protoculture Addicts. I'm not sure if that magazine still exists now, but they used to cover all kinds of anime series back in the 90s into the 2000s. And they had a good breakdown of what the mecha were, and the ship, and a few other, some of the characters, synopsis of the series. And yeah, it gets more serious as the series goes on, obviously, but it still gives you that feeling of, like, you get invested in the main characters. In my opinion, you really want to see what happens with these characters, and it's just an enjoyable series. It was for me. But again, I'm a mecha stompy action kind of guy. Now, if you're not, I would still recommend watching it for the character interaction and the comedy aspect, and maybe the underlying plot lines that develop throughout the series. If the mecha are almost secondary in a lot of ways, compared to a lot of the other story aspects, and it does make a difference. Whereas a show like Gundam was almost always, oh, the Gundam's got to fight. The Gundam's got to fight a Zaku. Or in Macross, there was always something generally going on with the variable fighters fighting the enemy, depending on the series. And almost every episode would have a battle. This one, I believe there's several episodes where they don't even have a battle. It's interplay on the ship or something else going on. And in general, the characters do develop quite a bit. And some mature, some don't, but they still change over time. And they wrap the series up pretty well at the end. There's no real loose ends after everything happens. Now, that said, they did do a sequel movie. That one kind of left me wanting. I was kind of bothered by the direction they went, but not everything is for everyone. So I know a lot of people liked it. Myself, not so much. But I still have the series. I still enjoy the series. I have watched it more than once. It has been a while, but I saw it on the shelf and I'm like, you know what? This is something I should present and explain to everyone. And yeah, it was just a fun watch. I try to watch things that are fun, but in the end, it's a good story. You kind of cheer for the hero characters at the end, going, yeah, all right, you guys did it, regardless of who the enemy was. And again, you do find yourself kind of rooting for the characters, but in getting invested in what happens to them. And the whole interplay of aspects of Akito's favorite show, Gekiganger 3, and how that plays into some of the plot lines and his character development, and what happens with the mentor and plays into his character development. And then even the interaction with his cooking mentor, who's just, I think she's the head chef on the ship, and then the other pilots, the captain of the ship, and among others. And it's just this big ball of fun, really. But yeah, if you can get a chance to watch it, I'd recommend it. It's a really good and fun series, and it's not hard to get into. And yeah, it's just one of those things that really solidified my interest in watching at least mecha anime, which I had just really gotten into in the early 90s, where I managed to fall into Robotech, which I didn't watch its first time around in the 80s. And that got me into watching Macross and Gundam and Bubblegum Crisis and several other series, all which involved mecha or cyborgs or power armor, things like that nature. And to me, this series doesn't disappoint. It's top notch in my opinion. It's fun. It has serious moments. It has silly moments. It has in between moments. It kind of runs the whole gamut of what you'd want in a series. And the characters kind of run that whole gauntlet of different characters as well, from the stupid to the airhead to the serious to the guy who's a reluctant hero to the guy who wants to be the hero, and to the unexpected villain, everything else. So I can't recommend it enough. It's a really good series to me. And if you get a chance, I really suggest you watch it. So again, that's Martian, a little bit shine there. Martian Successor Nadesico. It's a 25-year-old anime series, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. It may be streamed online somewhere. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked because I had the VHSs, which I converted to DVD. But yeah, good series. Check it out. It's fun. Again, I use that word a lot because that's the kind of stuff I watch. It's something I want to enjoy watching and have fun watching it. I don't want to be drawn into the dark depths of despair kind of thing, right? So Martian Successor Nadesico, great series. Check it out, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.